Hey there, this is Jason. It's July 2023, and we're approaching a heat wave here in San Diego County this week. One of the best ways to protect your trees from the heat is by applying a nice thick layer of mulch. And in this video, I want to share with you 3 easy and free ways to get mulch for your garden or orchard. Come check it out. So one of the easiest ways to get mulch is to go down to a big box store and to buy however many bags of mulch you need, put it in the back of your car, bring it in, open up the bags, lay it out, and you're done. That would take less than an afternoon. There's a couple reasons why I don't use that here in my orchard. Number one being that the wood chips that you buy in bags tend to be about the same size. And what I found is that as the bacteria and fungi in the ground break down those wood chips, they tend to fuse the wood chips together. Because they're all the same size, you don't have all those little nooks and crannies for the water to get through, and I often find that store-bought wood chips fuse together at the top layer, especially when the sun bakes it, and that makes the nutrients and water, it makes it really challenging for those to penetrate past those wood chips. The second issue I have is that some of the wood chips are dyed. They're dyed brown, they're dyed red, and those are chemicals that I'm putting into my orchard that I don't want. And then the third issue I have is that unless you really do your research, you don't really know where the wood is coming from. This isn't true of every company, but some companies could potentially use maybe treated lumber or pallet wood or some kind of wood that has a preservative or a treatment on it that, again, kind of goes back to the dye issue, that I don't want to have that ground up and put around my fruit trees, because eventually it'll leach into the soil and into my trees. Instead, I want to choose sources that I know are natural or as close to natural as possible. And so the 3 examples that I'm going to share with you today are all along those lines. Let's go check out source number 1. Okay, so my first recommended source for wood chips and mulch is the trees that you already have in your yard. So right now I'm showing you one of my avocado trees that has an amazing canopy, and every so often the leaves drop, and when they do drop, I let them sit on the ground. Can you believe when we moved into this house that this orchard was completely cleaned up down to the dirt? There was not a single leaf on the ground. Now that looked good when they were showing the house. The back orchard space looked very tidy and neat. You could tell a landscaper had come through and cleaned it up. But that was the worst thing possible for these trees. Avocado trees in particular are self-mulching. The leaves drop off the trees, and that creates leaf litter down here at the bottom. And that leaf litter is what helps retain soil moisture for our avocados. And we know avocados are really finicky, and they need all the help they can get. And so avocados have adapted to their environment by dropping their leaves and self-mulching themselves. So when I see these leaves on the ground, instead of going, oh man, I got to get out there and rake these up and clean them up, nope, I let them sit there. I let them brown out, I let them dry out, and they become part of the mulch that I have under the soil. Similarly, if you have any non-fruiting trees, any deciduous trees that you can rake the leaves up, wheelbarrow them, or drag them on down to your orchard or garden, use those. Instead of throwing them away in the green waste bin, go ahead and lay it out in your garden. The leaves will break down really quickly, and you'll have a nice leaf litter mulch in no time. So again, tip number 1, use what you already got. Look around your yard. What can you trim and break down into smaller pieces? Maybe you're using your pruners to break down small branches and lay them out. What leaves do you have laying around, and what trees do you already have that drop leaves that you can leave right on the ground, right underneath, like avocados? All right, source number 2 is going to be a bit location dependent. I live in an area of San Diego County where I'm serviced by EDCO, which is our waste disposal company. And they have green waste bins that they collect. And in those green waste bins are all sorts of organics now, not just your traditional greens from your garden, but any food scraps or eggshells or fish or meat. It all gets composted now. It goes in the green waste bin, and it's brought to a facility where it is cooked under tarps. The temperature goes up to, I bet, about 150, 160 degrees internally. It kills off any seeds that might sprout. And the end product is this right here. This is more of a compost than a mulch, but you could use it either way. And it's a mixture of everything that's ever been put inside a green waste bin. So there's some good to that, and of course there's some bad. Now there are magnets at these facilities that take out anything that ends up in the green waste bin that's metal. So if there are nails or screws or things like that that you wouldn't want, those are picked up. However, there is inevitably going to be some garbage in here. And mostly it's going to be shredded plastic. That's the downside to this. If you do go and pick this up, and typically it's very cheap, if not free, if you are a resident of that area, you do have to do a little bit of sifting and a little bit of cleaning to ensure that what you're putting out in your garden doesn't have microplastics in it. It's sort of an inevitable thing, but the mulch is free. You can get the big pieces if you screen it, or if as you're laying it out, you sort of sift through it and pick out the big pieces. But we're sort of at the mercy of the residents that live in the area and how diligent they are about keeping the green waste in the green waste bin and keeping garbage in the garbage bin. Not everybody is on board with that yet, or thinks about where they're putting their garbage when they've got a row of cans in front of them. So there is an amazing resource that you likely have right in your backyard. For me, I go down to the main office at Edco, and they have a self-serve station where I can pull my car up. I don't have a truck, so I just load up some large blue bins. I bring them in, it's a wheelbarrow's worth, and I spread it around my trees to provide some mulching that also will help introduce some nutrients into the soil as well. So again, I've got a mulch that will easily double as compost as it gets ingrained into the soil. So that's source number 2. There's some drawbacks to this, but it is free. Look into your local waste disposal company to see if they have a location or a facility where you can pick this up for free. My third and final source for free mulch and wood chips is Chip Drop. You can find them at getchipdrop.com, and they connect you with local landscapers and arborists who would otherwise be throwing away this mulch in the landfill, and instead they dump it off in your driveway or your front yard. Now, here's a warning. If you are on a small, let's say 1/8 acre property, you probably do not want to go this route, because this is a lot of wood chips. This is an entire truckload, and I estimate behind me I have somewhere between 10 and 12 cubic yards of mulch. I can use this much if you're on a small piece of property. Unless you work with your neighbors and agree that you're all going to take some, this will be way too much for you. So just be advised that there's plenty of warning signs and buttons that you have to click through on the website to acknowledge that. But if you do have the space, this is the absolute best source for wood chips. You can specify what kind of wood chips you want. That might increase your wait time, but that's okay. Sometimes for me here in Southern California, I want more hardwood or things like pine and less palm trees, because that's kind of stringy and it doesn't break down in the same way. But I'll take anything that they've got. And in fact, I've used Chip Drop so many times that I've made a number of contacts in the neighborhood that I don't even go through Chip Drop anymore. I connect directly with those arborists because I've used them over and over again, and they're a trusted source. So getchipdrop.com is a great place for you to get free mulch and free wood chips. Let's do a spin around this pile to show you just how much you'd get in a typical truckload. Now, I've gotten a little bit more in the past, I've gotten a little bit less, but I'd say that this pile represents the average amount that you'll get in one drop. Let's go check it out. All right, so here's our mulch pile. I'd estimate that this is between 10 and 12 cubic yards. And again, I've had larger piles, I've had smaller piles, but this is a pretty good average representation. Now, it's really great when you use Chip Drop. One, not only are you saving arborists money, they don't have to pay to dump this into the landfill, but you're also saving valuable landfill space. We are running out of space in our landfills here in Southern California. It's going to become more expensive in the future to get rid of our waste, because these trucks are going to have to bring our waste further out as our local landfills fill up. So by diverting these wood chips out of the waste stream and into my garden, I feel like I'm doing two good things. I'm saving the arborists some money. They're providing me something for free that I would otherwise have to pay for. And I'm also reducing the amount of waste that goes into our local landfills. So good luck getting your mulch, whether it's coming from your yard, whether it's coming from your local arborists, or whether it's coming from your local waste disposal company. There's plenty of ways to get free mulch, and I hope that this video is helpful in you doing that.